All right, are you ready for an adventure? Today, we're taking an absolutely epic journey across the incredible landscape of South Africa. So you might want to grab your virtual hiking boots because we're getting started right now.
Hey everyone, I'm Teacher T, and it is awesome to have you here. Our mission, should you choose to accept it, is to explore South Africa like never before. We're going to go from its sandy shores all the way up to its highest peaks, and then we're going to follow its amazing rivers all the way back down to the sea. It is going to be so much fun. So, here's our game plan, our adventure map, if you will. First, we'll tackle South Africa's giant steps. Then, we'll get a view from the top. After that, we follow a river's grand journey, meet its whole family tree, and finally, we face something called the Dam Dilemma. Ready? Let's go. Okay, first stop. Our journey begins right where the land meets the big blue ocean. We're starting at the bottom and climbing our way from the sea to the sky. You know, every great adventure has to have a starting point, right? Well, ours is right here, at sea level. Geographers actually measure all land height from this exact point, and they call it 0 meters. So yep, we're at the very bottom of the ladder, all set for our first big climb. And whoa, what a climb it is. Our very first major challenge is this thing right here, the escarpment. The best way to think of it is like a massive natural staircase that basically lifts the whole country up from the coast. It is a huge, steep slope, and we have got to get to the top.
Phew, okay, we made it. After that seriously steep climb up the escarpment, look where we are. We have reached the plateau. It's this enormous, high, and kind of surprisingly flat area that covers a huge chunk of inland South Africa. It's almost like we just climbed up onto a giant tabletop that's sitting in the middle of the country. All right, so let's put this new knowledge to the test. Imagine you're traveling and you see a sign for a town that says it's 1,200 meters above sea level. Where do you think you are? You got it. You have to be on that high, flat plateau. You've already done the hard work and climbed the giant step of the escarpment to get there. So we've made it up to the plateau, but believe it or not, our climb is not over yet. Now it's time to get a view from the very, very top. And here it is! Would you look at that? This is the highest point in all of southern Africa, Tabana Nlenyana. This is literally the peak of our climb, the roof of our world on this whole adventure. Can you just imagine the view from up there? Now, getting up here was a fun challenge for us, right? But just imagine trying to build a road on those super steep slopes of the escarpment. It's incredibly difficult. I mean, when heavy rain comes, it can just wash the roads right away. And can you even picture trying to drive a giant bulldozer or some massive construction truck up something that steep? It's a huge, huge challenge. All right, we've seen the view from the top. Now, I want you to imagine we have a magic shrinking ray. We're going to shrink ourselves down to the size of a single drop of water and follow a river on its wild ride all the way from these mountains back down to the salty sea. So here's the river's entire life story basically in 6 steps. First, it starts as a tiny little trickle, that's its source, way up high in the mountains. Then whoosh, it flows super fast down those steep slopes. But as it reaches flatter land, it starts to chill out and slow down, and it forms these wide, curvy bends. As it slows down even more, it starts dropping all the sand and mud it's been carrying. And finally, it reaches the end of its journey, the mouth, where it flows into the sea, building up this final sandy farewell party called a delta. What's really cool is this part, the meander. Once the river isn't just rushing downhill anymore, it kind of gets a little lazy. It starts to, well, dance across the landscape. These big, beautiful, looping curves you see, they're called meanders, and they happen when the river is flowing over much flatter ground. And now for the river's grand finale. All that sand and mud, the official term is sediment, that it picked up way back in the mountains, well, it can't carry it forever. So when it finally meets the calm ocean, it just drops everything it's holding, creating this brand new piece of land called a delta. Pretty amazing, right? But wait a minute, our main river isn't on this journey all by itself. Nope. Just like us, a river has a whole family. So let's zoom out and meet all of its relatives and the giant home they all share. So meet the tributaries. These are all the smaller streams and rivers that join up with the main river. You can think of them as little helpers or maybe siblings, all bringing their own water to make the main river bigger and wider and way more powerful on its trip to the sea. So where does all this water even come from?
Well, that would be the catchment area. I want you to imagine the entire landscape is one giant bathtub. Every single drop of rain that falls inside the edges of this tub will eventually flow down toward one single drain. That entire bathtub, that's the catchment area. And the drain, that's our main river system.
You know, our river journey has been pretty amazing so far, but, it looks like we've hit a roadblock. And this isn't a natural feature. It's something built by people, and it forces a whole community to make a very, very big decision.
So the community is thinking about building a dam. On the one hand, there's a huge benefit, right? A dam creates this big lake, and it stores water that can be used by farms, which is especially great when there's no rain. But on the other hand, there's a major problem. That lake has to go somewhere, and it could end up flooding the very land where people live and farm right now. So what do you do? I mean, this is a really tough one. A dam can bring a steady supply of water, which is fantastic for some people, but it also takes away land, which is just terrible for others. There is no easy answer here. What do you think is the fairest decision for everyone in the community? It's a lot to think about. Wow, what an incredible journey that was. We climbed from sea level all the way up the steep escarpment to the vast plateau. We stood on South Africa's highest peak, followed a river from just a tiny trickle to a mighty delta, and we even faced a real-world problem with no easy answers. Thanks so much for exploring with me today. We'll see you next time for another explainer.